Welcome back to RFL. Now, just about every night here since December 14th, we have focused, if not all, at least part of the program to the push for new gun laws. And that makes 102 days since the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary. And since the day that we lost 26 innocent lives in Newtown. We've also lost, and I want you to get ready on this number, 3,027 people, and I'm sure that number has grown since we put it together this morning. They are all victims of gun violence in America. Now, as we've reported, the Senate, they are preparing to vote on a somewhat watered-down gun bill covering wider background checks on gun purchases, gun trafficking, and school safety, with nothing on assault weapons and very possibly high-capacity ammo clips, or for that matter, mental health. And the response from especially Senate Republicans, 3 of them, I should say, not all, but 3, is filibuster. Ultra-conservative senators Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, they fired off a letter threatening to block any gun bill that in any way infringes on anyone's right to buy a gun, any gun. Okay, I'm sorry. That was a soundbite that many of you may remember. That's from Neil Hesland. Neil Hesland is the father of one of the Newtown children that died, and he spoke for many when he said, I thought we'd be farther along than we are right now. I thought that after Newtown, the conversation would have changed. Congressman, I'll ask you, forget about people have passionate opinions on both sides of this issue, and I'll respect both sides of the arguments, even though I feel very strongly one way. But the tone deafness, you may have even gotten one of those robocalls in Connecticut from the NRA for all I know, but certainly people in Newtown did. And it fits the spec that a week after that, the press conference we heard, a month after it, they put out an app that showed an AR-15 shooting things that resembled caskets that were even as young as 4 years old they could buy. The NRA and some of the people who have in many ways aided some of the language, the dialogue, and the tone to it hasn't changed. And that has surprised me. And I'm surprised that more people from all sides of the aisle haven't indicted some of how they've addressed America in the aftermath of Newtown.
Well, let me make a few points. First off, hats off to a senator who is actually willing to filibuster instead of just put his name to the leader who then takes it off the agenda. So, you know, let's go back to the old days where you actually had to take the floor and consume some time. Secondly, of those 3,000 people that have died since Newtown, how many would not have died if we had gun control?
I want to come back to the filibuster for a second.
No, but I just want to make this point.
I'll get to the second one, but the first one is we were asked by the president, at least let's have an up and down vote where people put their name to yes or no for what they believe gun laws in this country should look like. And the NRA immediately thereafter said, we're okay with that. Well, let's go for an up or down. So at least there's political cover for lawmakers. Why, as constituents in this country, don't we have a right to know where the 100 lawmakers in the U.S. Senate fall, whether it's for universal background checks?
We will. There will be a vote. But all I'm saying is it used to be you could go to your leader, he would say we have a hold on the bill. You wouldn't even know who was holding up the bill. So I guess what I think there's a little bit of progress. At least now we're forcing people who want to filibuster to actually put their names to the filibuster and have to go to the floor and actually filibuster.
If that's progress, that's frightening.
Yeah.
No, it's not frightening. It's progress.
I understand.
It's not frightening.
In Washington, maybe that's progress, but for us out here, that's trouble.
Why?
I'll tell you why.
Because filibustering is not an improvement on things. It's gridlock. It's just a different form of gridlock. I understand what you're saying, that they're accountable for what they're doing.
No, but once you establish the rule that you have to go to the floor, you're going to see a lot less of it. They may get some attention for a week, but then they'll be over. You know what really is? The senators don't want to have to come on weekends. They don't want to have to come on a Monday and Friday. Now they're going to have to, and that's what they're really bitching about.
I'm an American citizen, and I have a right here to be able to have a vote. Just a vote. And why do I have to go through the rigmarole where 2 guys decide or 3 guys decide they're going to hold up the process even though we all want a decision on it? I don't consider that statesmanship. I consider that grandstanding. And to me, you're right. They're not going to go on forever. They got to, at some point, sit down.
But give them some credit for one thing. They believe it is a constitutional right.
Okay, they put their name on it. But here's my point. 90% of Americans can't agree on anything in this country, okay? But 90% of Americans and 3/4 of the members of the NRA say that we should have a universal background check. And I know I'm talking to the guy who authored the original assault weapons ban, so I'm not talking at you. I'm talking with you.
I'm not sensitive.
I know, but my point is, why is that so hard? Why isn't the politics of it and the math of it, Congressman, enough that people say, I'm not going to lose an election here if I'm for a universal background check? Right. Why is that so hard?
Well, I would be voting for universal.
I know you would, but why would anyone not?
In part because they hear of the proponents, and I'm giving you their argument, proponents who say this is the first step to taking away everybody's gun.
That's the weakest form of argumentation.
Wait, let me finish. Let me just finish. That's just one of them. The next is, okay, we want to know who has the guns, so now we can publicize it so the whole world knows who has guns. And I don't think that's necessarily the public's right to know. No, so all I'm just saying is, you know, we're getting into this point where you have to be politically correct. And politically correct means you don't have a debate.
But it's funny. I grew up thinking that
while that's an assumption that you grew up.
Fair enough. Yeah, I did. Well done. But that we can have the silly debates in the radio on the right or left side of the dial making up the facts. But in Washington, they know no black helicopters are coming and kicking down doors and taking away guns. They know that's not what we're talking about here. And yet they'll parrot to the lowest denominators of them and take that as legitimate argument. I thought better of the institution than that. And maybe it's a new thing, and I'm not trying to be holier than thou, but come on.
I thought the Senate was way down here.
Yeah.
And now I think it's up here, but it's got a long way to go.
Good answer.
At the end, what do you think we're going to see?
I think you're going to see a vote. I think you're going to see background checks. I think you're going to see what the neat thing about this filibuster, it's going to engage people.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you gave the name to somebody and you held it and nobody even knew there was a debate. Now you're going to see the public engaged.
Maybe they could still just put a hold on it and make that their filibuster. I mean, it's not set in stone.
Well, if it's a hold, then shame on them.
Can I ask you a question, since you have expertise in this area? What is the conceivable Second Amendment objection to a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition?
Okay, well, the high-capacity ammunition is different. There's no difference between an assault weapon and a regular semi-automatic. It's ugly, but it's still a semi-automatic. It doesn't fire faster. It doesn't necessarily have more clips. So limiting the number of clips, yes, on all weapons, not just assault weapons. That makes sense, having a background check. But the fact that you can, keep firing, assault weapon is no different. It's not a machine gun.
What does an assault weapon have to do with the right to keep a handgun in the home under appropriate locks for self-protection? What does that have to do with an assault weapon? I don't understand the Second Amendment justification for an assault weapon. I just don't get it. It seems to me that it should be a no-brainer for everybody to agree on, and that opposing it on Second, not you, not you.
But you can't tell me the difference between a semi-automatic and assault weapon.
Well, a semi-automatic weapon is not a weapon in common circulation. It's a military-style weapon, is it not?
Assault weapon is a military, but it may have a pistol grip. It may when you talk about a silencer, then I think you ban all silencers.
Okay.
But the problem I think is the public sees an ugly weapon. The politician then says, let's ban the ugly weapon. There it is, the ugly weapon. But the ugly weapon isn't necessarily any more violent than a regular, simple semi-automatic.
I got to hit a break here. All right, when we come back, we're going to come back to the issue that we started the program with, which is same-sex marriage and the social issues and where we are as a country right now, and also the impact of what's going on in Washington society in general. We'll talk about that and the politics of it after this.